They wrote my name as Chris T. I'm going to start this with a joke. In third grade, I knew it was funny because when they were reading a substitute teacher was reading all the names in class. When she got to mine, there's already 3 Chris's in the class before me. So she said, "Is Christy here? Haha, it's Christy," thinking she got me. Psych. I was like, I prefer Christ, actually. Gotcha. Right? I'm telling you this because this story is a bummer. It's really hard for me to get through. I feel like I'm goofy and I'm funny because I'm a Hispanic man with a single mom who had 3 little Hispanic boys, and I'm a goofy guy. I grew up goofy. I think I figured it out today because I really like watching my mom laugh. She had a hard time, and being goofy made it easier, tangibly so, easier. So I've spent my life being funny and making light of the hard times we've had. And we didn't grow up Central Florida poor. We grew up small town poor, where we were like the only ones at the local health center who needed it for free, where my Christmas was a cavity being filled. We grew up a different kind of poor. And we also grew up with the distinct disadvantage that my mom married a man who did not love her, so we could stay in this country because she came here from Costa Rica. We grew up we're the last bit of that generation where a man could hit a woman and kind of get away with it. And so getting away from that is something I tangibly remember because I'm the first son. I remember running away with our backpacks full. I remember my red and white blinking sneakers blinking in the dark as my mom told me to be quiet, and being very worried that my sneakers were so cool, my dad's definitely going to notice them getting smaller going down the street. I remember sleeping on the pews of a church that promised to take us to what's known as a domestic abuse shelter, where a woman who has survived domestic abuse can stay safely until she finds something. Plot twist. We grew up in rural Washington state. That's where we ended up. There's not a vibrant Hispanic community there. So my mom learning English was mandatory. There was not a Spanish alternative for her. So we ended up going from one to another, to another, to another, until I was too old to be in one because a 13-year-old boy was too traumatic for the other traumatized women. Now, that last trip is something that's very important to me because it brings me to the fact that when you work in a corporate job, there's times when you can hook someone up, and you can, or you can super not. And it's not going to affect you much at all. There's times when you can accept an expired coupon or give someone a discount, and it won't affect you. And there's times that you can say yes and make someone's day. And it's always fascinated me to this day on when people make that decision and why. I remember we were leaving from McVinville, Oregon to Kelso, Washington on a taxi to a Greyhound station. I remember my mom struggling with English, filling out the paperwork to find our last stop from a domestic shelter into a tiny duplex in the projects where she would get a job at Foster Farms factory killing chickens. And she was so disproportionately excited. Even at like 12, I was like, that's a lame job. So we got on the taxi. They gave us $40. And my mom filled out the paperwork, and they gave her a folder. And I distinctly remember her saying, "Are they going to have that there?" They said, "Yeah." So she left the folder. We got into the taxi, and my mom talked him up. And when they got to the Greyhound station, he said, "That'll be $39. She hands him the $40. Says, "Can I have that dollar back?" My mom was an immigrant. She didn't understand you tip cab drivers. She's a good person, I promise. Now, we sat there for 6 hours outside the Greyhound station alone in the dark. It was one of those times when we were so early, we were almost late. It was foggy and it was misty. I don't know if you've ever been to the Pacific Northwest, but it's a place where it rains every 20 minutes or so. instead of like Florida, where it doesn't rain at all for 3 months, and then it's torrential God, like downpour, trying to smite us off the earth. It's a little different. I was nervous sitting there thinking, convinced that we had missed the bus. And as we waited longer and longer, people showed up. Normal people showed up. And there was a very tangible, expressive safety that came with being like everyone else when you're that alone and when you're that vulnerable. I remember the first day I went to my second grade, I had new clothes because my grandma in Costa Rica had found our address. And she had sent us a package, and I had new T-shirts and new clothes. And that morning I woke up, and I went to school so early I beat the teacher. As we waited for the Greyhound bus, and they opened the door, everyone got up, and they handed them a piece of paper. And we didn't know what that was. I know now it was a ticket. But we were the last ones to get on, and I could see the fear in my mom's face. When he came out and he says, "All right, do you have your tickets?" She says, "No, I don't have any tickets. I don't have any papers." He said, "Well, how much money do you have?" He said, "It's $20 a ticket." She says, "I only have $1. And the bus driver looked at my mom in the face and said, "You three can get on the bus." And that made our lives. Thank you. My name is Chris Thornhill.